taking your questions and comments. You will get to talk directly to your guides about what this insight means in your life. To do this, type your question or comment in the Q&A box located at the bottom of this Zoom page about what this insight triggered in you. And Ray will open the mic so you can talk with us and your guides. All right. Second contact. When the conversations with your spirit guides began. As a child, did people ever ask you who you were talking to? What did you tell them? How did that question make you feel? Were you surprised and thought to yourself maybe they could hear them too? Did you feel embarrassed when you were caught talking to someone who wasn't physically there? Was it a shock to you that those who were talking to you were real and always around you? Did other people have these friends too? Many of you not only talked to us, but saw us or felt our presence. At first, we were there to protect you. Then, even though you were not able to talk well enough to communicate your thoughts to the people in this world, we telepathically understood everything you were feeling and thinking. We heard you and you heard us. So we're going to go back to that time, that early time in your life where that all happened. And now you're just beginning to remember some of the subtle things that you did as a new person. As a new young person, maybe you were 3 years old, maybe you were 4, when you first started really realizing that ease with which life, felt to you, that natural feeling where when you were around your parents or other people, you felt that edge. You felt that you didn't feel the same ease as when you were alone, like Veronica talked about in her comment today on this post. She talked about how in nature, it was just so easy. She could connect with, with just the natural nature that was going on and how relaxing that felt, how normal that felt, how natural it felt to her. And she asked in that post, is that what that is? Was that what it was? And my answer to her was, it was a gentle, them letting you know gently that they were there, that she had this guidance around her. But because it was so natural, it was so gentle. Because they never want to scare you. It was so gentle that Veronica didn't really connect with it being her guidance. Those who came with her into this lifetime, throughout this lifetime, all right? So that's the kind of feeling it is. It's kind of like a subtle thing, but it really felt good and it felt natural to you, all right? So we're going to pull from that. So who wants to start first about what they remembered from that earliest feeling in being connected? Second contact, all right? So you were a little bit older than the first contact. Now it's getting to feel more normal to you, more natural to you. So who wants to start?
Well, I can start this, Veronica, since you brought up the note that I wrote earlier. Yeah. And so the only kind of disconnect for me that I'm trying to get connected is the conversation aspect. Like to me, conversation, even if it's telepathy, is kind of a back and forth, understanding, communication kind of thing. I'm just trying to wrap my head around my experience. The only thing that is coming to me now that could have been it, which is like what I said, is like just like being in the awe of nature. So is that I guess that's what you're saying, is that can be it. That can be it. That is it. Is that right?
Yeah, and we're going to have your guides answer that. And Veronica, just like when I answered you today in the comment,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to scare you, so they come through in a really subtle way.
Mm-hmm.
And coming to you, in your particular case, coming to you the way that they did was their choice because that fit with you. That was the right thing to do with you, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to let them comment about what that is, what that was then, and how you go back and make that connection to them now, and how you know it's them.
Okay.
And here they go.
Veronica, you have always felt comfortable out in nature. Nature is one of the most relaxing environments you can find yourself in. For most people, taking a walk in the woods or outside is like a meditative state. It's easy to reach you when you are relaxed and your mind is at ease. Any panic in your life disappears once you get out into nature.
Okay, so is that what you recommend she does now to make this connection with her guides?
Yes, you will start hearing our voices in the woods.
That's why I told you to bring My Guided Journey with you, because as you're connecting with this, bring it with you and have so that you've got it right there to write down what's going on with you in the moment. All right.
Okay.
Eventually, what's going to happen? It's going to feel so natural to you. It's going to feel like it is you. All right.
Mm.
That's why it's tricky. Come back, Ray. Let's let them talk to you about this part of it and how it kind of throws you off, because I know it's doing that. Here they go.
Most people, when they are out in the woods, feel alone. They only feel that because no other person or group is around them. It's the perfect environment for being receptive to our communication.
So how does Veronica keep from confusing it with who she is in that natural environment versus you coming through and speaking with her?
Don't worry about asking questions. Just start listening.
Okay. Great.
And Veronica, it's all about consistency, right?
Yeah.
All right. So take yourself out in that environment consistently.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be for a long time, but do it consistently. I'd say to a lot of people, they could just sit at their coffee table or at their dining room table and bring their journal out and just start writing. But for you, you need to go back to that place where where you remember it. All right.
Okay.
So, and I'd say that's your launch pad. That's what's going to get you moving through it faster than had you not done it that way. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
We want progress reports from you, Veronica.
Yeah, I am making progress, but I haven't gone out into the woods or outside really to do it yet. But at my dining room table, I'm definitely making progress with communication. Yeah.
So that's good, because you've got a basis of comparison. You've done it like in your house at your dining room table where, but now you take yourself out into nature and you feel the difference in between.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you have a woods near you where you live where there's like a creek or running water?
Yes, there's lots of that around here.
I see you sitting near the running water. Here, I hear the running water.
Oh,
okay.
very good. And recently, you guys, I've seen, in fact, I said to Ray today, I was at the kitchen sink.
Okay, yeah. I was just going to bring that up.
You were?
Okay, so.
Oh, my God.
Linda has been talking about today. She finally told me, but she said all week long she's felt somebody standing behind her, some kind of energy. And look at the set tonight. Look who's standing right behind you.
I know. Yeah, and today I had on the right side, and that's on, what is that? That's on my left side when they're looking at me, but it's on my right side. Okay, it was on the right side, and I saw somebody there. It was like out of the periphery, right? That's how we see these things. Mm. And I actually was caught by surprise. I went, like for a minute, because I didn't know if somebody in this world was actually. I don't worry about it when it's my guides, you guys. I know that everything's okay. It's not them that concern me. It's the people in this world that concern me. That sounds terrible, but anyway, they were there, and I've seen them. I've seen their shadows going through the hallway. I've seen them a lot lately. So, okay. So going in that direction for just a minute, it even caught me by surprise, okay? I tell you guys that when you feel these energies and they're right there and they're palatable, it'll catch you by surprise. But the minute I caught myself do that, and I went, and I went, oh, and I knew they were right there. You hear how I say they? It's not ever, when they are your guides, they are infinite. They are one with everything, so it's not just one entity. It's a whole, they're one with it all. Okay, so I always use the they word. Them, they, that type of thing, we type of thing. The more you do that, the more, the easier it will be to make this connection. The easier it will be to have this communication. The more common it will feel to you instead of uncommon. Okay? So quickly, Ray, come back over here. Bring your Selvas back over here, Ray.
Right.
Okay, so we haven't even talked to them about this, you guys. This is good. And so every time something like this happens, sit with your guides, your pendulum, use your speller, use your hands, or just take your journal out and start writing, all right? So that you can flush this out, find out what this is. Ray and I are so good at this that we're just going to bring my guides through and say, okay, so what are you doing?
This is the time of the year where more and more people begin to feel spiritually connected to their religions or families or their pets even. We were just standing around watching.
Why?
Just like we always do.
Right. So I felt them. I physically felt them around me, all right? And so what they're talking about is the veil, okay, the veil between this world and the world you came from. The world you came from, the world you go back to when you're released from this world. And when we come into the winter months, the veil between worlds is the thinnest. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that. But also I want to comment that Kathy seems to be standing by. She wrote in the chat, so.
Okay.
She's
Good
trying
thing somebody's watching my screen for me.
That's good. So is Kathy over there on Facebook?
Not yet. She will be in a minute.
Okay. Great, Veronica. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the veil between worlds is thinner in the wintertime. It's a time to go within and reflect on what's happened in the last year, all right? Because in the spring, it's like new birth. The seeds are beginning to bloom, birth. They're beginning, new trees, new leaves and flowers and everything are coming out. So this is a time where you go within and you, the veils are thinner. Your connection to the guidance is is closer, let's say, all right? So this is your magic hour, you guys, this time of the year. So what do you have, Ray?
Well, Kathy has joined us.
Great. Where is she?
Oh, she's here.
Oh,
she's a little delayed.
We're a little delayed up there. All right. Okay.
Yeah, this is the time of the year, I think, when the veil is thinner. And this is the time of the year everybody starts contemplating spiritual things and emotional things, you know.
Right.
They tend to get generous around holidays.
So, who else wants to speak up about? Now, is Kathy? No, that's Veronica.
Veronica, Joy. We got Joy.
Joy's on the right.
There we are.
There's
all
Kathy,
here.
and there's Nina. Nina, we missed you. Can Nina hear us?
Nina, can you hear us?
My
Screen is frozen.
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay? My internet says it's
Yeah.
up. But I tend to get that nature thing too, and it's kind of rural where I live, so I get out and walk and talk to the cows and the sheep and, you know, the trees and the creek and everything, you know, so I do that. And I feel somewhat of a connection, you know, when I'm out walking.
That's what it's all about. See, it's all about the connection. It's all about the connection. And we know when we're not connected because we immediately feel many times fear or just aloneness, a horrible aloneness, all right? So that the opposite of that is feeling connected, right, Nina?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Nina, when was the first time you felt second contact? When you were real small and you knew the connection?
I remember a lot of times when I was little and my dad liked to go out and garden, and I'd go out with him, and I just always remember remember feeling it and all then. And so throughout life, I just can't seem to make the connection between that life and the spirit world and the earthly world. I can't seem to.
You know, you do. I'd like to correct you on that, because when you're with the group on Thursday nights and you guys are using your talking board and you're working with that, you are really, really good, you know. With the support of the group, you make the connection, you know?
Yeah.
So you said you were with your dad when you remembered making that connection as a little girl, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You see how that is? It hasn't changed for you. When you go out by yourself, it's not conducive to you feeling that connection. You do better in a group setting of like-minded people.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So that's what's working for you, all right? So you keep showing up with these guys on Wednesdays, you know, when you guys get together on Veronica's Zoom, and try to get with us as much as you can, because it's the group environment that triggers you. It really does.
I've been watching that group. You guys are doing great.
You guys are. We watch every one of those you put up. As you already know, we comment. So did you see the one that they did, Nina, last Wednesday?
No, I wrote myself a note down to watch that, and I haven't gotten to it yet.
It was really good, and you'll see the comments and everything in the feed underneath their video. So catch up to that, because that's where you shine. You shine with like-minded other people, all right?
I do. So
that's going to be your connection. Okay.
Did you guys, like we talked about last week, did you guys go back and look at some of the earlier videos? The first times you guys got together?
And how far you've come?
I haven't.
I haven't either.
You guys are good.
I didn't go back and look at the videos, but I went back and from the very beginning and started to read my channelings and saw how different they were to now.
And what is the difference?
Well, the difference was like one sentence versus, paragraphs and in more detail.
Does that take you back, Ray?
Yeah, I remember the days I got 2 or 3 letters and then, parts of words that didn't go together.
And Joy, how you were a real, skeptic, a left-brainer, you were like that years ago, right?
I still am sometimes,
So is Ray sometimes. So you and Ray have a lot in common there in that way, okay? Mm-hmm. And so you'll always have that kind of pop in, although Ray's very intuitive. He's very good with this. He's awesome. Every once in a while, I told you guys before, Ray will, will be channeling information, and I can feel him interrupted. I can feel I could feel his will bending it, all right? And I just go, stop doing that. I can instantly feel it. That's why, in your case, Joy, mm-hmm. Even though you really don't like, your preference is to work alone, but when you work with other people, it'll keep you from letting that dominate you and, interfere with the clarity of the information coming through, with the connection to your guides. All right. Yeah. So, and Ray doesn't like it when I bring it up. I go, you got to cut that stuff out. He doesn't do it very often, but it does happen. And he realizes, I'm in the way. I'm definitely interrupting it. And then he stops doing it because he just breathes his way out of it. All right.
Okay.
So Joy.
That was an interesting comment Joy had today.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, hold on a minute. Ray printed these out. Go ahead.
Okay. This was when you were talking about your son when he was little.
Right.
I wish I would have had this information. You were referring to today's insight about second contact when you started communicating with your guides. I wish I had this information when I was young. He was so connected, and I did not know how to support him when he was verbally talking to his guides.
Yeah.
And what was the comment?
That was her comment.
Right.
And Linda said, taking the journey in part 2 of my guided journey, the companion journal, is how you can do it for both of you now. Taking your journey first as you write out what happened in your early life, share that with your son, help him to understand you. He will then see why you taught him the things you did, and with a new awareness, you would have done it differently.
Mm-hmm.
He will have a new baseline to rethink his life from. Is there any better legacy to leave your child, no matter what age they are?
Right. So it doesn't make you the know-it-all, and it doesn't make you the bad guy. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You did the best you could, Joy, with what you knew at the time, like we all did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it differently now.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And doesn't the inside of the journal say, this is my legacy I leave to my family? Right
inside the first page.
Right there.
Right.
My legacy too.
Right. Because that's what this turns out to be. This is a real effort on your part in part 2 of my guided journey, where you take the cheat and you go back and you remember what happened, like second contact, when you first contact happened last week, second contact happened this week, and you know it, you remember it, it's not unfamiliar to you. You know what we're talking about. And when you take that journey back and you document what you know was true, what you saw, what you, from not taking it personally, but from remembering it like it happened, and writing that in there, and then going, okay, now that I see what knocked me around, threw me off, track as a young kid, when you're, whoever the children are, or whoever you leave this to, who needs to know this information, they see this about you and they just go, oh my God, I had no idea what my mom went through or my dad went through. I never would have thought that this is what they were faced with, and why, and this makes sense that they would teach me the things that they did. They were trying to protect me. they're my parent. They were looking out for me, and they were running on energy that was out of shock and fear, and caught them off guard, and they didn't have enough time to think for themselves before people started imposing, everything on them, and they were confused. And of course, then they had me, and they had the kids talking, they had me, and then, they raised me with all this nonsense. And then they start to see what you did to realize it, and they see what they're doing with their own kids and go, oh, please, stop it right now. I see where I picked this up, and I don't want to repeat it, So that was good, Joy. Yeah.
That was real good.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. He was like in second grade, around that age, and always really super cheerful to us. And then I would hear him through his door for like over an hour having an entire conversation. I mean, it never stopped.
Wow.
It would just keep going on. And then I got so scared, I called the insurance company and got a mental health eval, because I could hear the entire conversation, and it just wouldn't stop. And he would have a habit of going outside. We had a pond, and he'd walk around and around and around the pond and just talk nonstop the whole time. And it turned out that he was being bullied pretty bad at school. And they would punch him in the stomach and call him the doughboy. And he was then made to squeal like the doughboy. And but the talking went on for several years, actually even into his teens. But when I took him to the doctor, the psychologist, he interviewed Tyler, and he said that Tyler had 21 friends. They all had names. He knew them intimately, and he talked with them. And he just said that only children did this a lot. Usually they have one friend, not 21 friends. But after I started learning these things that you're teaching us, I truly feel that they were his guides, because we would say, well, have you heard from Ghosty lately? That was the main one that he spoke to. And he said, no, he's on vacation in Florida. He's going to see such and such, in so much detail that I'm like, how does he even fabricate something like this? And I think it was that they made themselves completely a whole entire group of friends for him.
Yeah. And Joy, when somebody's traumatized like he was really traumatized.
Yeah.
I mean, severely traumatized for his sensitivity level. That could have happened to another kid that wasn't as sensitive, and he wouldn't have reached so deep inside of himself, all right? But your child was very traumatized, and I know this so well. When that happens, you shut the world out. You shut it out because it's not serving you. It's too painful, And that's where you go in and you find all this. It's amazing. And that's why he shut the door, and that's why he went outside, because he couldn't explain it to you or anybody else what this was, but it saved his life.
Yeah. And I've talked to him as an adult, and I says, these were your spirit guides talking to you. And he says, no, I just made it all up. Now he's, right. But I don't believe that. I don't believe that, especially at that age. He was not a little kid.
Right.
Older.
You're right. That is true.
And then when he's on the playground talking to all of his friends, that made the other kids shun him more.
Right, because he was different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it is. And you kids will see other kids talking to themselves all the time. All right. And they're having a communication. What's happening is they're connected. They're not disconnected. The kids that notice that the other kid's doing that, they're not connected. They're disconnected. That's why they notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, kids tend to daydream. Younger kids spend a lot of time sitting in class daydreaming. Looking out the window, you know.
And that's connecting.
Right.
Yeah. So that doesn't mean that they're goofing off or, you know, it means that they're bored with the situation.
Right.
And they found a better place to go. I mean, that's what it is.
I know how that one is.
It's those subtle things when you were second contact. Okay. When this is what tonight's about. Second contact. When the conversations with your spirit guides began, and they were so natural and so normal and so subtle, or not, in your case, Joy, with your son Tyler, it wasn't so subtle, you know? And now he writes it off because he still doesn't know how to explain it, except that he made it all up.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say that because it's so natural and normal. I made it all up to be connected.
Yeah.
It's abnormal not to be connected. That's when you start feeling doubt. You start feeling like you're not good enough. Like, you know, like you get real needy. You need other people in your life. You need them to like you, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. And he didn't go that way. He was pretty content with himself, wasn't he, Joy?
Yeah. Yes.
That he wasn't with himself. Like you said, he was not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Joy, now that you know what you know, how would you have done that, handled that situation with your son differently?
Well, we never shunned him or anything, you know, or told him not to do that or whatever. We acknowledged that if that's what he needed, you know, imaginary friends, that's what we thought, then that was okay. What alarmed us was we thought that, you know, that's sort of when we kind of figured out that he was being harmed emotionally at school.
Right, he was.
And then to try to intervene and help that, it's very difficult to change mean little kids.
I know. And, you know, we come into this life, it's a great big plan. And these guides come into this life with us to see that plan through, all right? And for him, this connection that he had gained with his guides because of the pressure he was under at school, the horrible pressure. It was not an accident. It was part of his growth with his guides. Even though he says now, oh, you know, that was me making stuff up. There'll come a time in his life as he moves through his life where he's going to need that again. He's going to remember that again. He's going to remember the connection he had because he had a solid one, all right? I mean, he wasn't nuts. There wasn't anything wrong with Tyler. Mm-mm. There's a reason that he established that connection so strong at that age, even though he was an older child at that age, because he knows he's going to need to refer back to that at some point in his life going forward. He established a baseline that is undeniable, unusual.
Yeah. I think the guides always show up in groups. I mean, the first time you met them, when you were 20 months old, there was more than, 12 or 15 of them standing there in a circle?
Calm.
Right. And they are calm. And they don't intimidate you. They don't pick on you. They don't criticize you. You know, they wouldn't tease you.
No, they're the opposite of what goes on in this world. That's why you know it's your guides, Veronica. That's why when you're out in nature and you make this and you feel that connection, or even at the dining room table, you feel that connection. Ray explained it perfectly. Say it again, Ray.
What, being outside?
No, what you just said.
Oh, they're always in groups. You know, I think back when I was that age, when I was young, and I carried on conversations with someone.
Right.
I didn't understand who it was or who was there or why they were there. I think growing up in a very religious household, they were your guardian angels. Maybe that's the closest connection I could make. But I knew somebody was there. But I only had one guardian angel. How can I feel like I'm talking to all these people. But I always try to figure out things with them. Help me figure this out.
Exactly.
Help me figure this out.
That's exactly it, right there. What Ray just said. It's Tyler was communicating and conversing with these guides to help him figure this out, to help him figure his self out. That's really what it was. You will know that's your guides when you feel that feeling where it was a conversation. That's why it says second contact, when the conversations with your spirit guides began. Conversations. You were talking with them. It seemed like it went on and on and on. But then at second contact, you were also aware that somebody might notice that you're doing it. All right. So that part of you, you were in this world and you couldn't be so liberal with this open communication with your guides without getting someone, drawing attention to yourself and having somebody ask you, so who are you talking to,
Yeah.
and then you have to try to figure out you're not concerned about who you're talking to. You're more concerned about how do I answer that question to you? I mean, since you don't get it. That's it right there. So maybe what you did, Joy, by leaving him alone was the best thing you could have done since you didn't know how to talk to him about it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just tried to support him the best we could. We tried to just, of course, he was our only one and we were older parents and we were kind of doting anyway, but.
That's right. So, this story hasn't ended. He's got his whole life in front of him and he's going to see how that plays out. So
yeah.
He's got that baseline. That's what's important, is that we have the baseline. All right.
Does Tyler have kids?
No, he's 24 and he's in college now.
So Tyler has a baseline, and Veronica has a baseline in that she remembers these feelings when she was out in nature as a little girl. Nina has a baseline where she felt it when she was with her dad out in nature. So Nina knows that she just needs to be around people that support her, and it comes right back out, right? And Kathy, what's your baseline? When do you remember that second contact, that early memory? And what was that like?
I was always outside. I loved walking in the woods alone. Or climbing the trees. I was always alone. Well, I had a baby sister that tagged along after me, but most of the time I was playing alone and always outside, always.
And so talk about an experience that you had when you were as young as you can remember, when it felt like that second contact, not the first one, the second one, where now you were conversing with someone.
I don't know. I always had conversations in my mind.
Right. Those were the conversations.
Yeah, as far back as I can remember, I've always talked to this voice in my head. In my, not out loud, but I had conversations in my mind with this voice.
And so what Ray said earlier was perfect. He said that it's like you would mull things over in your mind. You would wonder things. You would converse with that. You may not have called it your guides, but you communicated with that. You explored with that. You thought it through. Okay, is that what you did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So did you think that was all you?
I never really thought about that, but there have been times that I've told the voice, just be quiet. I don't want to hear it right now. Just be quiet.
Okay, so that's really good. It was never just you. And although you had all this activity going on mentally, it's so natural and normal. You know how you hear people say it's paranormal. I always tell people that it's not paranormal. It's normal to be paranormal, all right? It's normal to be connected, to have this ongoing conversation with someone. I mean, it doesn't really matter who it is, but someone's there, and it's real, and it did happen, and it does happen, and there's nothing, you're not cuckoo, you know, or weird or anything like that.
Well, this is a good point. In those days, you know, in the 50s and 60s and things like that, you were on a radio interview show in Canada a couple of years ago with two other women on the panel who were spirit talkers. They talked to spirits. They had communication with spirits. Well, it was a show about your children having invisible friends, remember?
I do.
And the one woman, she was in her 30s or 40s,
Right.
and she had invisible friends when she was...
And she talked about it.
And talked about it and told her parents about it, and they locked her up into a mental institution from the time she was 7 till she didn't get out.
It was 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah. And you know, these are the kind of things that we instinctively, I personally instinctively knew to keep my guidance to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And we all did. You see there's a line there, and in fact the guides let me know to keep it to myself when I was really, really young, because I had so much activity in that area that they knew it was going to get me in trouble in this world, in the world that we are here in right here, if I wasn't careful with it. And I was so careful. I mean, come on, I didn't start writing guided till I was 60. You know, I think I was pretty careful. You know, I was really careful, but I wasn't careful at the expense of not having that guidance in my life at every moment, whenever I needed it. And even when I didn't think I needed it, they would come through it and they would give me a heads up on what was going on or what I needed to be aware of, or, what was coming my way, and when to get in or out of a situation, you know, a relationship or whatever. Look past the drama and don't take it personally, all of it, you know. And they were always right there with me. And it wasn't always easy in this world in spite of all that, but boy, I was so far ahead of what was going on. I didn't even realize it until I got out when I was 16 years old. And I finally got away from it. Did it all just, you know, unfold, where I saw how the whole thing, they've been with me all the time. The guidance saved me from all this trauma that could have taken me down. And most of all, it saved me from learning all the wrong things. That's what it really saved me from, so that when I went out on my own, I was clear about my life. That was the best part of it.
You didn't have to unlearn a lot of stuff.
No.
Because you didn't hang on to a lot of that stuff from this world.
I didn't let I didn't take it personally. The best way I can sum it up is I didn't take it personally. When you're with your guides and your guides are guiding you, with your son, Tyler Joy, the only way he was able to combat this was to have this what's the way to describe this? To have this
support,
rampant communication with his guides that were all there back to back, helping him understand himself. And in the time that he was in this turbulent conversation, I mean, that was rampant. He had no time to think about the kids at school. He had no time. He was one with this guidance. That was amazing.
Yeah,
the conversations were just like, I'd hear him say, well, yeah, I want to do this. No, you can't do that, because it's going on and on and on. I mean, a real conversation.
He really figured things out. He's still young, Joy.
Yeah.
He hasn't connected the dots yet in his life, but it will come back. Mm-hmm. And he built something there. He's got something there that's so amazing that the foundation has been built. You know, the baseline is there. And we always have that baseline to go back and use again. It's right there. That's why I ask every one of you, what was that when it was the second contact? What was that when you were really small? That was the foundation, the baseline for your life to make this connection again. That's what you want to go back to now, all right? To reestablish this, to refortify this connection to your guides, because it hasn't gone anywhere.
I remember, I don't know, 20-some years ago, I was taking a course in massage therapy, and I was walking into the classroom and all, and there was this girl I sat next to, and she looks at me and she says, you know, you've got this whole entourage of guides that are hanging around you. And I thought, that was really cool.
How old?
So I just know now that they're always with me, my entourage.
How old were you when that happened?
Oh, that was I was in my 40s.
In your 40s? Okay, yeah. How old was she when she said this to you?
She was younger. I don't know. She was younger. She was maybe 30s. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you let yourself, if you don't let it catch you off guard, like it's been catching me, you know, I've been seeing the shadows. I've been seeing them in the periphery, and I mean them. I mean more than one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the one that came up to me today, it was like right here. I went.
She thought it was me trying to sneak up on her.
I knew it wasn't Ray. I saw Ray across the room, and I was like, wow, that was interesting. How solid that was. How you know how close they are. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Didn't I even say something to you? Like, did you say something?
Yes, you did.
Because you said something out loud.
I went like this, and you went, you did. You go, Linda, are you okay? Or
yeah.
And I said, yeah. I said, the funniest thing just happened, you know. But, you know, every morning when you wake up, you guys, every morning, you want to take that 10 or 15 minutes to, as soon as you wake up, you want to just go back into that slumber, breathe, and move back into the position you woke up in. Was it this side? Was it that side? Was it on your back? And just let yourself go back into that, you know, in between this world and that world. And let that world tell you, show you, help you remember what it felt like, what they were trying to convey to you. And keep that connection, all right? And practicing that will make this reconnecting to your guides now way easier, all right? It's those subtle little things, that 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, that 15 minutes with your guides when you talk to them using Ask the Universal Channel or your journal, where you write in your journal, you go out into nature, and you, whatever triggers it, and just do that, and do it every single day, all right? Mm-hmm. And always write down what you're feeling, what's coming through, what it felt like. You know, I keep going back to the feeling because the feeling is everything. It's the truth. It never lies to you. You know, the feeling is what the little child, second contact, when the conversations with your spirit guides began, you felt it. You knew it. All right? And it was second nature for you. And it's something that you did definitely, you covered up. You were careful with it. So people wouldn't ask you too much about it and interrupt it, you know? How do you explain this? And especially if somebody's asking you what it is. Well, that means, translation, they don't get it. Mm-hmm. Right? So as long as they don't get it, how do you communicate something like that to somebody who doesn't get it? It's pretty hard to do. That's why you have to write it down. That's why you have to write it in your journal, all right, as this stuff comes through. Yeah.
I know sometimes I've heard like voices when I'm waking up.
Same thing, Nina.
Yeah, it's like on the other side of the veil.
You know what? They're there.
Mm-hmm.
They're there because they're looking out for you. They're there because they're always there. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to think about it this way. When you're in a situation like that, any of you, you're in bed and you're just kind of waking up and then you go back into that slumber. Tell your guides, tell them, okay, I'm not afraid of you. I know that I could be caught by surprise. I mean, even I was caught by surprise today when they were right here. I'm going, oh,
Yeah.
you know, they caught me by surprise. But they know that I'm good with this. I mean, I just thought somebody else was in the room. It was that strong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So just let them know that you're good with this and that you're not afraid and you want to know what it is that they're trying to convey to you. Thank you for being on my side.
I remember waking up when I was about 6 years old. I woke up in the middle of the night or early hours of the morning or something, and I saw 3 people standing at the foot of my bed. I thought it was my mom and dad and older sister. I said, what are you guys doing? And they didn't say anything.
So what did, okay.
I just rolled over and went back to sleep, and the next morning I said, what were you guys doing in my bedroom last night? The blood drained out of their face. Like, what?
So
we were in there.
So once you got past the part where you knew it wasn't them, how did you go back and revisit how it felt when that happened?
It didn't scare me. I wasn't afraid.
Right. You know what
I
they
thought
felt?
it was
Go ahead.
my parents. That's how comfortable I felt. I thought it was my
Right.
parents.
That's how familiar they were to you.
Yeah.
They were your spirit family. Okay? It's amazing. I mean, there they were right there for you, Kathy. You know? And it's not were, they are there for you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Followed you here.
Yeah, they did. All of your guides followed you here into this life. You did not get dropped off here to fend for yourself. That's not how this works.
That twilight time in the morning, you know, when you're just waking up and you're still half asleep and you're drifting in and out and you don't smell any coffee, so you can't get up yet. That's kind of like the daydreaming thing.
Right.
You know,
It is.
You could call it daydreaming. I mean, I can relate to the daydreaming. I was a big daydreamer in school. I mean, in elementary school.
God bless you.
Bless you.
Mm-hmm.
But I can still hear Sister Marita. Mr. Holley, is there something more interesting outside that window than here in the classroom?
Yeah.
Yes, sister. I mean, no, sister. I heard that a lot.
I used to get in trouble all the time for daydreaming. I was so bored in school.
Me too.
Me too.
Oh, man. That is so true. So what we were doing is we were gone. We were somewhere else. We were connected, you know. And there's no way we were going to give that up. We were going to say, well, you know, here's what was really going on. There's no way we were going to do that, you know. It's interesting how we know that. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Even before we can speak, we know we shouldn't tell them that. We shouldn't. Here's a lot of times what it feels like is we shouldn't be doing that. How do we know that? You know, it's not that we shouldn't be doing that. It's that the people in this world don't understand, or then they forgot. So they're the problem, not the fact that you're doing that and have that connection. It's how do you manage that? How do you answer that? And it's hard, you know. But you're past that. You're out of that. And you have a baseline. I'm telling you, every single one of you, you have a baseline from back there. I know because I wrote about my own. You have a baseline. And again, that's why I did write this book, My Guided Journey, Taking the Journey in Part 2. You will find your baseline. You will remember what that was. You will. But you got to do that work. You got to take the journey in Part 2.
So kids are just as bored nowadays in school, but the modern day version of the daydreaming thing is this.
Oh,
Yes.
The smartphone thing. Talking to people out there.
that's interesting. Not to the people who are right here.
Right next to you.
Right. You know? It's an interesting symbolism.
All your friends are out there somewhere.
And in this world, they're virtual, okay?
Yeah.
But in the world that you came from, they're etherical.
Mm-hmm.
And they're actually the real thing. Those are that's the real thing. So it's interesting. And the reason for this session today is you get connected with that contact. You remember that contact. I wasn't the only one that had it. It wasn't just me. All of you had it.
I don't remember anything when I was little. I remember internal conversations as a teenager and laughing inappropriately at different things because it seemed like whoever I was talking to inside me, we were ahead of what they were talking about.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's called higher learning.
Yeah, and then people would look at me like I was just weird. Why was I snickering at something? But something was very funny inside my head.
I could see you doing that, Joy. I could see you doing that, giving it up. You know, you couldn't stop from laughing. You know.
Yeah, my yearbook in high school. You're weird, but I like you. You know, those kind of comments, and you know, I had to throw that yearbook away because I'm like, how can people write these things that are, you know, they're going to be there forever.
They're so true.
Well, nobody wants to be weird when you're 17.
Everybody wants to be accepted. People are looking for acceptance. That's what they're looking for. And the people who accept you more than anybody are your guides. Why couldn't you be, satisfied with that? But it's not cool to talk about it.
Well, we come into this life, Ray, to live this life. All right. And how do you do that the best that you can? You have to be here fully. All right. But, not at the expense. Here's your life here. Not at the expense of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Who it is that came with you into this life. Who it is that you brought with you into this life. You. All right. The real you. Not the mask. Not the persona that we've learned to become so that we can blend in to this life. It's not just this, but it is this. We signed up for this, you guys. It's about learning how to bring them together and then ultimately be one instead of split off or like you're dragging a leg, That's what this is about. Getting yourself back. We all know if we're doing that. We know when we're missing it. It shouldn't be this hard. We shouldn't be struggling. That's when you're not struggling, you're connected. You're in this world, and you are in this world as well. You are connected, okay? You're not broken anymore.
I know exactly how you feel, Joy. I have the same comments in my books. I never fit into any of the groups, the eggheads or the athletes or this. All of my friends were the fringe people, and they were different, and they were funny.
Yeah.
They were really funny.
Yeah. I just wanted everyone to like me, or I felt like a failure. If one person didn't like me, then I was failing.
Then that's what you came in to learn.
Right.
That's why you came in to learn that one thing. And once you got over, have you gotten over that one yet, Joy?
Yeah, I don't give a rip what people think anymore.
That's why we like her. You know that, you guys? Why we like you, Joy. Okay, so it's a freedom. She can help. Joy, just by saying that, helps us all breathe. That's what that is. When you release that, now you're connected again. You're not, desperately looking for someone to accept you in this world. The neediness, it's terrible. That's suffering. How old were you when you finally gave that up, Joy?
Somewhere between 45 and 50.
Okay, it doesn't matter what age we are as long as we get it. It doesn't even matter if we don't get it. At some point, we'll come back, however many times we need to do that, and we will eventually get that. Yeah. What's beautiful about you is you got it, all right? All right, that's what it's all about. So I'm like you are. I really don't care I mean, it's not like I'm snotty about it, but I can't live my life based on what people think about me.
Right.
I can't.
What happened after I realized that was then it freed me to not like everybody else too. I mean, there are people I don't actually really like, and that's okay.
And you wanted them to like you.
Yeah, you're one of those people that you don't like to like you.
Yeah, everybody had to like me, or there was something wrong with me, or what was I not doing right? Yeah.
I copied a post the other day from Facebook, and I put it up on the wall over here because I thought it was so funny. It says, "I've stopped caring what people think about me. I hope everybody's okay with that."
That's an oxymoron if there ever was one. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So
I always went for the people that were everybody else was making fun of them.
Yeah.
I would befriend them so that they would feel like they...
Absolutely. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, Kathy, because I get, through Cora, I get all these questions all the time about the bullies, right? And I always say that what you need to do is you need to, if you see somebody bullying somebody, you need to befriend that person who's being bullied, and the bullies will think twice before they attack them again. That's all that kid needs, or that person needs who's being bullied. It could be a coworker that's being bullied by the employees or the boss. And you know what that person needs? They need someone to step up and stand on their side, to be on their side. And it could cost you your job, because now you've befriended somebody that everybody's trying to destroy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know what? It's my feeling about something like this. It's not worth. I personally, I can't sit back and watch that. My brain explodes. I can't sit back and watch it, and I don't care what the consequences are. I've had consequences, all my life around that one, and I don't care who likes me, or I'm not worried about getting fired since I work for myself.
You've always liked your boss, right?
I shored up my bed, So what can they do to me, I call them on their stuff. I just can't stand it. And I think a lot of times the bully doesn't even know they're being a bully. Mm-hmm. I think they're just used to getting away with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So until they're confronted, until the other person gets backing, do they think twice and go, oh, you're one of them. Say, yes, I am one of them. Now you're going to have to challenge me too. It's going to get a little harder for you. So yeah, good for you, Kathy, because that's what we need more in this world.
I don't know why. I couldn't stand to see somebody being left out. I wanted them to all be, have a friend. Everybody needs a friend.
Right, exactly. That's right. Yep.
Even if they're invisible.
Yeah.
That's a good comment right there. That's right. And your best friends are invisible. They're all,
say her spirit guide angels were her best friends and life coaches.
Right. They never let you down. Everybody in the whole wide world, they'll be the ones that never let you down. You want someone you can always count on, that's who they are. They're the ones, I'm going to read this again. When the conversation with your spirit guides began, it started with a conversation, and it is a conversation. It's a one-liner they come through with. It's a thought that no way could you have known that on your own. That's a conversation, all right? That's them communicating to you. And then what you think is part of that conversation as it goes back and forth. That's what you do, Kathy. You do it in your mind. Mm-hmm. You may not verbally do it like Joy's son did, but you do it in your mind, and it's just as solid.
Mm-hmm.
But the way we really solidify it is we write it down in our journal, what came through, what that conversation was. That's what really strengthens it and perfects it. Let's let the guides talk to us about what we all just talked about. And always take that breath. Boy, that's the connector right there.
When you write in your journal, you are writing the history of the future. You can look back and see the lesson now that you didn't understand before.
The history of the future.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
I know. I mean, would we think of saying something like that? Not at all. So what they're doing is they're showing you out there, where this is going. And then when you arrive at that point, at some point down the road, there it is, the history of the future from where you saw it before it showed up. 20 years before I wrote Guided, they came to me in that dream and said, you're going to write a book about your relationship with us since you were a little girl. And we appeared so the world could believe. They had appeared just a couple of months before that dream. And that's when I took the photograph. And 20 years later, I got right on that one, huh, Ray?
Yeah, you jumped right on that one.
You know what? I didn't have the dots. I couldn't connect the dots all together yet. I wasn't ready yet. Ray.
You didn't have a publisher. I showed up.
I didn't have Ray. There's a lot of things that still had to happen, had to show up before this could be realized. But they let me know the history of the future.
That's awesome.
I love this.
They always told you the future things. What they told you, dozens and dozens of times is life will get better for you as you get older. If you can make it through childhood.
Right.
That part was kind of the...
Well, that's why they came in so strong for me, I think, is because they knew what I signed up for in this lifetime was pretty intense from the beginning, So they were right there because they knew that I'd need them. I'd really need them there, And it did work out, so.
My guides have told me for 3 days, trust. Whatever else they tell me, the last thing they tell me is trust.
Now, when did they say this to you, Kathy?
The last 3 days, they've told me trust. So today, my husband got a letter in the mail from Social Security that they had overpaid him $3,000 this year. And he's freaking out. And I said, my guides have told me the last 3 days to trust. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. So I know that's what they were telling me trust about.
I do too. I agree with that. Did you write about this in your journal?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay. What I want you to do.
Crazy birthday.
Yeah. Just go ahead and start write out what happened and how your husband reacted. Okay. And I can understand his reaction,
Mm-hmm.
And although reacting is not the way, you know that, Kathy. And write that all down. And this is your log, And then you write it out about the trust. You've been sending me the guidance about trust. And this happened. Thank you for the guidance. Thank you for sending me that guidance about trust.
Mm-hmm.
I trust, and I'm present. I'm present because I do trust. If you trust, you are present. And when you're present, that's when you can receive more guidance. When you're not present, you guys, you can't receive it. Because you're in the past, you're in the future if you're not present. And your guides are only present. That's the only place they can reach you, is when you're present. So when they're saying trust, Kathy, they're saying that so you do remain present. So they can send you the rest of the guidance. Okay? Write it out. Put it in your journal. Keep track of this. That's practicing presence. Okay. Wow. That's great, Kathy.
This morning I said, "What do you want to tell me today?" And they said, you are where you are supposed to be at this time." I said, "And what else?" And they said, "Trust."
Make sure you write all this down. This is going to be so valuable to you as you keep moving through this. And it's the discipline you need to continue with, all of you. Write it all down. Okay? I love that. I know how important that is. And you feel the presence in trust. When you trust, when you just let all that angst go, okay, that stress, that fear, that concern, that, oh my God, does someone have my back? You lose that, and you just trust that someone does, that more than someone does. A whole pack of your guides do, all right? They've got your back. You trust, when you do it, you're present. You're not looking to run somewhere. When you had that second contact, when you guys were small, you weren't running anywhere. You were present.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, you were all present. You were at ease. You trusted. That was great, Kathy. We all needed to hear that tonight. Veronica.
Yeah.
What's going on, Veronica?
Oh, I'm just really loving all this.
I made a note about Veronica. Hold on. Where is it?
Okay.
We were expecting to hear some kitten news.
Oh, well, that is progressing for sure. I bought the supplies, and I've been talking to the guides about it, and they were like, get the supplies today. Don't get the kitten, because you want to be ready when it comes into the house. You need to be ready. So I went and got the supplies. Also, that day, I got an unexpected check in the mail from a tax return from 2 years ago that covered exactly the cost of the supplies.
See that?
Meant to be.
That's how it
works. I know, and stuff like that. Oh, and then I went and looked at, because I asked them, where should I go, which one of the humane societies, and they told me. So I went there, and actually there's just more than I can even say, but like one cat was called Tasha, and then this author came in, Tasha Silver, and she's all about being present and going with guidance. So I downloaded her book, and I've been listening to it. And then, but Tasha was already taking the cat. So the lady was, hold on, back up. So that I asked the question, what's the name? I didn't ask what's the name of the cat. I asked, does one of my spirit guides have a name? Is that something that I could, that you could tell me right now? And they said Pixie. So I was like, okay. But then when I went to the place, and the other cats were gone, and she goes, well, we're getting some cats up from California because of the fires and all that. So let me see. These are the ones that are coming. Da 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 da. Pixie. Da 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 da. And I said, did you say Pixie?
That is interesting. So it's on its way?
Yeah, maybe. Because she said she wasn't sure, but I should call her on Thursday, the lady at the Humane Society. So Pixie might be there on Thursday. So.
Ever since I was a little kid, people called me a pixie.
Really?
Yes. And in Guided, I talk about it. They called my dad a leprechaun, and they called me a pixie.
He looked like a leprechaun.
I know he did. My dad.
I don't remember that from your book. Oh, right. How interesting.
I do. He probably was a leprechaun.
I think he was. I totally think he was. He was. I could tell you a whole story around that whole thing with my dad. And yeah, I think that the energy, it's the energy of the pixie and it's a little mischievous. It's curious. It's it's a free spirit, the pixie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely a little mischievous.
Yeah.
And magical, magical. So that's cool.
Yeah, so that's the cat report.
Oh my God. So that's her yellow brick road, that's your trust. That's where it's taking you.
Yeah, one step at a time.
You really did a lot this week with the cat.
Yeah.
Oh, she did.
Maybe we'll see Pixie next Tuesday.
Maybe.
Well, whenever you get your kitty cat, we all want to see this special little kitty cat that we know is on its way.
Yes, definitely.
That is so cool.
And Pixie's a cool name.
It is a cool name, yeah.
The best names for cats are like weird aunts and uncle names, like Imogene and Vernon and Harold, things like that. Larry.
I would never let Ray name our cat a corny name like that. Never. Oh, God.
Beulah. I had an Aunt Beulah.
Beulah. Can you imagine? They don't care what you name them, Ray. They don't really care. You guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about next week. Was this interesting tonight or what?
Very.
I know it. It was so good. And I think I think for me, what I feel about this whole session tonight is trust. I love that, Kathy. And I think we all need to stay tuned into that because that's going to keep you present. And when you're present, you can't miss the guidance. It's impossible. All right? Yeah. Okay, so next week, Tuesday, December 4th, watch or interact with us right here on Zoom. In Linda's weekly Guided Insights is where you will receive the link to join us to talk to your guides, to us, and to the group. 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern. To be published next Tuesday morning, in Linda's weekly Guided Insights, the guides will be talking about the first time everyone here let you down. What happened the first time you felt like everyone here let you down? You learned to accept your guidance at a young age, and you followed it without hesitation. Soon, you found out that there were consequences for doing so. You started to realize that people aren't like you, and you didn't fit in. This is when you began to realize that you were different, all because everyone else didn't follow their guidance or recognize their connection to them. Everyone here was acting the same, which is what made you the outcast. So do you guys remember feeling that?
Definitely.
I do.
Now, who said definitely?
Kathy.
Kathy. Joy, you remembered that. Is Joy?
I don't know if I remember it or not. The first time I felt let down? I don't know.
Well, let's put it to you like this. You didn't overcome what people thought about you, about needing to be liked until you were 45 to 50 years old.
Yeah.
So it started real early in your life.
Very early.
Yeah. So Kathy, what was that like? When you felt...
I was never part of the in crowd, and I didn't really care. I mean, I was always, even in my family, I was always the black sheep in the family. I was okay with that. I didn't want to be like everybody else.
Yeah. That's good. How about you, Veronica?
For the first time, I'm not sure the first time, but many, many other times. I got really silent and quiet, like painfully shy. And in the 6th grade, my nickname was Lockjaw. I wouldn't talk to anybody.
Oh my goodness.
That's what usually happens.
That's what it does. Nina.
I know. my dad was military, so I started school overseas, and then when came back to the States and went into the school system, I had a hard time fitting in. And they always, I don't know, they always made fun of me.
Right. It seems to be the norm, doesn't it, you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really does. So we're going to get into that next week. That's going to be what we're going to cover and do a little bit more uncovering from that early time in our lives where this all started. What triggered it? What started us moving in that direction? And what turned Veronica into Lockjaw, all right? What caused Joy to be 45 to 50 years old before she stopped caring about what other people thought of her? You know, and Nina, how would you describe it?
I can't think of a word for it.
Feeling out of sorts.
Yeah.
Just feeling out of sorts and not being supported by the people here, the kids here, because you were new all the time. Your dad was military. You were always new, you know?
Yeah.
Here's this kid.
Yeah, I always went to a different school.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You had to start over all the time, fresh, you know?
And then Ray, for you, I'll tell Ray my Catholic thing, and I go in, sit down, and in the Catholic schools, the girls sit on one side and the boys sit on the other, and I was sitting in the wrong spot.
Sitting on the wrong side?
Yes.
It was never that confusing when I went to school, grade school, because the boys and the girls never even encountered each other. They were in different classrooms. They had separate schedules.
Separate schools.
No, they had separate schedules. They'd go to Mass at this time. You'd go to Mass. The boys would go to Mass at a different time. You'd pass in the hallway. That was the only time you saw them.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't trust these guys, did they?
Well,
and Kathy, you just plain didn't involve yourself with that. You really didn't care, right?
I didn't care. I was perfectly fine with not being part of the crowd.
That's right. That's right. So it's interesting. We all and the differences between all of us helps us figure it out, you know, and helps us remember more. This is all about bringing it back, you guys, bringing yourself back and this connection to your guides. So let's close this session tonight about second contact. When I want to get this exactly the way I wrote it, here and there. Okay. Second contact. When the conversations with your spirit guides began, they're going to close the session with their closing message about this, and here they go.
never doubt. We are here. You must be present and ask from your heart. Follow the guidance, no matter what others may think of you. You may find yourself disappointed with others, but never with yourself. It's because you had higher expectations for others than they had for themselves.
Right, right, right.
That's
So
true.
when you feel a disappointment, or like that, what they just talked about, you'll notice that it's never for yourself. You don't feel disappointed in yourself. You feel sad about the situation, but you don't feel disappointed about yourself. You feel disappointed with them
Mhm.
when they miss it, or when they're rude, or when, like you were talking about, Kathy, when somebody needs support because the group is working against that one lowly person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That just is not okay, you know.
And even though that you're disappointed in the others, the disappointment is a pretty tough emotion to handle.
Very. The guides have always said that disappointment is one of the hardest emotions to handle, to deal with. It's very hard. You know, Veronica, look at your family. It's disappointing, you know. Yeah. And what did it cause you to do? It caused you to work on yourself.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
That was guidance.
Yeah.
Moving you that way, you know, and you listened.
Yeah.
You trusted. There it is, Kathy. Thank you for that trust, because that's what keeps us present. You guys, we'll see you guys on Thursday, this Thursday, in the group. Yay! In the Ask the Universal Channel group. What do you guys want to work on this week?
Whatever the guides want us to work on.
Okay, you know how I do it now, right, Kathy? I know nothing. We come in and we let the guides tell us what's going on, and we move from that.
Perfect.
Because we trust it, right, Kathy?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I love that, and that lets them, that gets all the expectations off of it, and we move right into where they see you guys what you need to work on now, what you need to know, how you've been doing, or whatever it is. All right. So we'll see you guys on Thursday, and then we'll see you next Tuesday.
Right. And Veronica, don't forget when you're getting all these supplies.
Yeah.
Did you get a big squirt bottle?
Oh no.
Oh yeah, you're gonna need the squirt bottle. Keep them off there. Those red blinds behind you there.
Thank you.
That's a good idea.
Get off the counter. Tell her. Can I have a tissue?
Yeah.
Tell her about the counter training, Ray. What you gotta do.
Counter training. You know, they always want to jump up on the counter, and it's a bad habit to get into because you know you put the food up on the counter. Yeah. Once they get up on the counter, their favorite game is to knock everything off the counter onto the floor. So, and it's like a little thing they do.
So you train them with the bottle, right? Squirt bottle.
Yeah, you train them with a squirt bottle.
So they learn the word no. Mm-hmm. And they don't listen because they're cats, right?
Most of my cats thought their name was No. Like several months of their life.
So when they jump on the counter and you tell them no, and they get
down.
What do you tell them, Ray?
Get down. Get down.
Get down. And then if they don't listen, they're like this. Then they get the squirt bottle, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh!"
They have to know who's in charge.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had a secretary one time when I lived in San Diego that dropped off some papers at her house, and I heard this noise coming out of her kitchen. It was and then it stopped, and then I heard it again, and I heard it the third time. I finally said, "What is the noise coming from the kitchen?" She says, "Oh, that's the cat." I said, "What is the cat doing?" So she took me out there. Says, "When the cat's hungry, she jumps up on top of the counter here, and she puts both paws on top of the electric can opener and pushes down until I come out."
They're smart.
Yes, they are.
They are so
smarter than dogs.
People keep them off the counter too. They don't like that.
They want to be. Yeah, they want to climb up where you are.
But you don't want them to. You want to train them early because they learn fast.
Yeah.
And they also learn to get away with it if you let them get away with it. So then it's really hard to train them. But anyway, Veronica, we're on this adventure with you.
Pixie adventure. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I notice a lot of the pets coming in from the storms, from flooding in the California. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're bringing all kinds of. They saved all kinds of animals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some badgers too. You could get a badger.
Don't get a badger. No.
Honey badger.
Test it.
Yeah.